How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I'm going to go and do. It's a mission. This one I'm going to do one of these water booms again. So I'm doing water boom one. Yeah, partly, apparently, well, they're definitely connected. 3 and 4 were connected. I just want to see if 1 and 2 are, and if there is any way to get all of them connected or whatever. Just kind of test around with them a bit. I didn't want to pick too much of a crazy mission today. I'm taking literally the old Derry out. Yeah, so there's the water boom. There's like the pipe leading to water boom 2, so I'll have to get that one built at some point pretty soon as well. Yeah, so for this one, driving up like the right hand side of the map, cutting all the way over. I'm going to the railway station for the supplies. I need metal beams, metal rolls and small pipes. These warehouses I unlocked the other day, they have like one lot of metal beams and rolls at them, but I don't know, just the way like when you look at some contracts, it says where to go to get the supplies from, but you've already used them. That's one thing I don't really like about warehouses with limited cargo. I did the suspension. I was testing it out because this has got a drop axle. When you drop this axle, it kind of lifts the whole truck up. And in the scheme of things, I kind of mess about with it once or twice on my way round. Yeah, there's a little glitch there. Apologies for that. I don't think it's really worth it. Some occasions it may be, I don't know, but just because like when it plants down to the floor, it lifts your entire truck up, so you kind of then got X amount of weight that's not really on the front axle, like so I reckon you'll understeer more. And yeah, it's lifting the back up a bit. I just don't really see the point in it. It's a nice little touch. Yeah, that's what she said. I think when we first got this game, obviously that axle didn't lift up and down. Well, I definitely know it was the case. Yeah, so they kind of added that halfway through, and I still don't really see the use, but I'm not really bothered. A few vehicles have got it. I'd rather have the option to lift the axle out of the way instead of it being permanently planted down on the floor, which I believe this one was before that became an option. But yeah, obviously when you drop it this time, it kind of goes a little bit far and tries to act like raisable suspension. It tries lifting the whole truck, but I went and tested it out on that, and it is just that axle kind of pushing the whole vehicle up. It's not got some kind of raisable suspension kicking in. At this point, I was going along the road there. I kind of got a bit distracted looking around at the vehicle and forgot where I was driving. But yeah, trying to just get up into 8th gear was enough of a challenge. I hit like I don't know, about a centimetres worth of mud scattered on the road, if that, and that immediately slowed me down to 1st gear, which I know I did swerve off the road as well, but I've been up and down there in a few other trucks where I've actually managed to stay on the road and it was the same thing. As soon as you sort of hit somewhere around there, it stops you. And then when I was climbing over this bit, I got to about now, I was like, well, I'll just stick it in reverse quickly. I'll put this axle down and see. You can tell here, because it's like in a dip, when I put the axle down, it's obviously can't reach down enough to lift the rest of the truck, so that's like another thing that kind of shows that it is like the drop axle doing it, not some raisable suspension. It actually seemed to climb out there still pretty well. I don't really know what that tells me, to be honest. It kind of went fine both times, really. So, yeah, I mean, I was just messing around with it out of curiosity. I was extremely tempted about now to just hit that roundabout and do a jump. I'm glad they have left the roundabout sloped like that and not completely surrounded it in rocks or something to where you'd just never have the chance. Yeah, I've drove a few vehicles down there and kind of ramped it up. Since they've broke the gearboxes and everything, it feels a little bit slower, but still. Yeah, by the way, that axle as well, I'm putting it down now because it probably doesn't come across too well on the screen. I think you'll feel it more when you're driving it yourself. Obviously when that axle goes down, it is lifting everything up, so it felt like there wasn't much weight on the rear or on the front, so not only was I understeering a bit, but it's the only way to explain it is like when you steer, obviously your front wheels steer and they kind of pull you around. And on old computer games, they used to, a way to make cars steer, I remember they did it on like some old rally games and stuff as well. Instead of like, you know, you turning your front tyres and they kind of follow the road, it just have like, as if there was an imaginary pole stuck through the dead centre of your car and it's kind of rotating around that centre axis. It just sort of feels like that, like when I was steering with this truck just then, that's why I kind of crashed into the bridge. It sort of understeers, but then it pivots around like the centre point, those tyres really, so then it suddenly kind of threw the nose over to the left and yeah, I hit the bridge. The steering is pretty slow and delayed on this, so yeah, you kind of, I don't know, any last minute turning, you're probably out of luck, you're going to most likely bin it. Again, give the suspension a little go there just to see, I kind of, just to sort of prove to myself that it's probably more awkward than anything else. It, yeah, just kind of pushed down on a rock and sort of lifted my back end up even more to where I've got less grip. Ended up having to use a winch for that bit, which I don't mind though. A little patch like that kinda still fits within the spirit of using a winch to get through awkward sections like that. Yeah, I'm not too keen when you get sections where it's just, you know, you may as well just keep winching the whole way along. I'm sure that does happen in real life, but yeah, a little patch like that where you just got to fire one winch out and hoist your way out of like a little river rock bed section going on, then yeah, that's sort of pretty nice. I even put a cab protector on this. I don't normally do it because it normally, it's probably not on this vehicle. I think it might be the P512PF. That's got a cab protector, but I think then it won't let you have the crane or something. There might be more vehicles that do the same, so I don't usually equip it, but since we've got the step deck and a goddamn horse for me, obviously had to bring him along. It'd be rude not to, but yeah, I wasn't sure if the fuel had kind of lasted all the way up to now. I was kind of happy with how the Derry was going. The reason why I chose this in the end was I wanted a truck that I can go in the high range gearbox, and then I don't know, I've just not really used this for a good while, so I kind of figured it's one of them where I actually don't need a crane. I can just go to the railway station, load all the materials I need. So yeah, I just kind of figured, sod it, we'll take a step deck, take the Derry, see how it's going these days. I put the chain tyres on it. I mean, I went through the tyres. This has a fairly limited selection of tyres. It pretty much offers you all the ones that have got like dual rear tyres. And yeah, when you scroll through them, I don't know, rating wise, you basically, it has the same rating as the tyres above it, but you just get an extra ice rating. And again, with a chain, I'm kind of convinced they have their little perks here and there. Is this the one? Yeah, when I caught on that tree and it fired my trailer around. And then now, I don't know, like look, I'm in high gear and I'm flooring it, and for a second I thought, oh, did it start spinning that drop axle thing, but I think that was just still spinning. Looking at the revs, that big counter on the right is the rev counter, but it's not even moving. I put it in auto and obviously I was just checking, like, yeah, it is definitely a rev counter. For whatever reason, when I put it in high at the minute, instead of just instantly stalling me, it's just not applying any power, it's not stalling. Yeah, the rev gauge wasn't going up or anything, so God knows what that's about. There was a few other times where it did actually try and stall on me in high gear, so it's not like it can't, but yeah, the fact that I'm fully stopped and all the rest of it, unless, I don't know, maybe catching that tree freaked it out a bit, made it wonder what was going on, so it was just behaving like that, I'm not too sure. But yeah, I mean, the other Derry, I could have technically bought that as well, but I don't know, we'll find another mission. I will get that Derry out at some point. And the, yeah, just thinking about it, yeah, there is the Derry Special 15C now, which I wouldn't have used for this mission just because the gearbox is too slow on it. It's a bit too much driving going on this one. It's pretty close there, last second. It was understeering a bit, I was like, oh no, I don't like doing 3-point turns if I can help it, but the last second it kicked in, we clipped the tree, but we made it around. It's that Lo4f training in action. Yeah, just kind of after crossing that water there, sort of cut up this way. I've not done it before, I've seen it. I know this is a bit of a slope. Most of the time I cross like that railway bridge and then, but there's a bit of an awkward, like a sharp hairpin turn really at the other side, and I figured this thing probably wouldn't do too well. So even up there though, it kept its balance. I kind of drove up on a diagonal, so yeah, I mean it could have tipped, but it held its own. It even scraped like the trailer kind of up the embankment as well without too much issue. I'm also surprised, considering the amount of things I did hit tonight that gave me damage, I'm surprised running over those pipes in the yard didn't try and delete the suspension. It's going for a nice trailer drift around it. I cocked it up now. Although then again, actually, I'll blame myself for cocking it up, but looking there, it might have been when I just bumped over those rail tracks. That probably made me understeer a bit, so then I had to let off the accelerator and we didn't get the trailer drift I wanted. Yeah, like I said, that's why I've ended up coming here anyway, because there might be... I'm trying to think. I might have small pipes somewhere. This is the thing though, like when you look on this mission and ask, you know, like you click on small pipes to see where they are, it'll go to like, say, the warehouse near the garage, but there is no small pipes left, so then it ends up not telling you where you need to get them from. And yeah, I could scavenge the beams and rolls from those warehouses that are kind of in that burnt forest section. Well, not literally like the map burnt forest, but the bit on this map that's burned. Yeah, I think I'd probably end up having to come over here anyway to get the small pipe, so at that point, considering it's unlimited cargo, I'd rather just do it that way, because I know at some point there's a mission where I'm going to need to build consumables, and they need rolls and beams, the metal rolls and beams, so... I'll just say, by the way, that, like, an invisible hitbox, I reckon I should have made it around there if the hitboxes on this game were on point and nice and precise. I reckon I would have made that. Got screwed out of it. Had to do a 3-pointer. Yeah, so some of those warehouses as well are a little bit closer to that side of the map than where the rail yard is, so I don't know, it's one of them, like I say, if I can get unlimited cargo I'm just going to use that, because yeah, the game doesn't even know what's going on anymore and what materials are where and all sorts, and it's a bit of a pain looking through some of the, like, the main contracts really. They're a bit faffy. I kind of keep losing the enthusiasm to get started on some of them, because it's like, you know, you got to go here, there and everywhere to grab all, like, a different selection of materials, which I suppose is part of the game, but it is what it is. Seems like a lot of faffing around. But it's more even like when you just start the mission or contract, or you're looking at them and you want to kind of work out what you got to do and where you got to go and all that. As I say, quite a few of them I've noticed, you click on a material and it'll tell you a place where there isn't any left, and then now you have to spend the next 5 minutes kind of looking across the map trying to find different warehouses and this and that just to see what's got where. And yeah, it ends up just being like cargo admin again, where instead of just getting on with the mission and you sort of roughly know where you got to go and everything, it's yeah, you're trying to figure out what the game has kind of got confused on, and that can eat up a bit of time in its own right. And then at that point, yeah, when I can't really clearly see what way I'm going to need to go and what I'll need to do, then it makes it harder to pick the right truck for the job and the setup and all the rest of it. And yeah, I just started, I was like, nah, I'll go on to a different mission. This thing, I don't know, maybe there's more weight in the cargo these days, but for the most part this truck felt pretty solid all the way from the garage to the rail yard. And I know there is different terrain once you come out the rail yard. You are in like that burned forest section, which seems like more sticky, boggy kind of mud. But yeah, this thing, even like climbing up that hill just back there, it was struggling. One annoying thing I will say is, for the most part I was able to get in high gear and kind of motor along. Went pretty wide and understeering around there. Yeah, in high gear it's not too bad, but when you're ticking along in this sort of mud and it's not quite enough to get into high gear, you go into auto, and I think between just how they've cocked the gearboxes and all the rest of it, you're kind of driving along in first gear and then it tries to jump into second gear, then realises it hasn't got enough oomph to maintain second, so then it kind of does, you know, the equivalent of like a clutch and drops back down to first on its own, and then you have like a lull of power or lack of power for 3 odd seconds and that, and yeah, that's a bit of a pain. It's definitely, if you had to do lots of off-road driving and that kind of thing, you'd probably end up being best off taking an off-road gearbox and just going in the high-low gear. But yeah, I don't regret it. I like the pace of the high gear in general. But just, yeah, when like certain sections, it just, if it's sat in high gear, if it's sat in first gear and just revved away in that'd be fine in its own right, or, well, I mean, at that point you sort of want to jump up the gears if you can. But yeah, worst case is like the game automatically trying to jump into second and then failing and then forcing you back to first. I mean, there's definitely a manual gearbox set up, like a properly a proper manual gearbox setup on this game, and it'd certainly be pretty interesting to try it out. Yeah, you can see now, I mean, there is an element of like the trailer does sit pretty low, so I think that's beaching at certain points, but once you can finally get up into high gear, the best thing is try and drive kind of off the ruts in the road that seem to slow down a bit. It's never going to make it over that water. I was watching something earlier, someone, it's about them Fabergé egg things. Someone went to like some flea market and bought this egg looking thing with a clock in it, and to be fair it said, oh, they only paid $14,000 for it, which is like, yeah, so it's probably not your average flea market, but they bought it. They were going to melt it down and turn it into jewellery or whatever, but then before they melted it down they did a bit of research on it, and yeah, realised it was one of these Fabergé eggs, so it's obviously worth ridiculous like millions. And apparently I think there was 56 Fabergé eggs in total made. I think they were made by like the Russian royal family or something, and there's 49 I think they have that are documented. There's still 7 out there that are missing, they're probably owned by some private collectors that don't want to let it be known, but yeah, you never know, they could be out there, could find. I mean, there was someone over here in England, and they bought a house, and then up in the loft, just while they were like slowly renovating the house and doing whatever, they found like an oil painting, and I can't remember for the life of me who it was, but they ended up getting that valued, and it was worth something ridiculous like 5 million. It's like, why did that never happen? Just find some random painting and that's it, set for life. Yeah, you can see there again, it maybe is the weight of the cargo, I'm not sure, but it certainly feels like this truck in general is being held back and it's dragging more than it was kind of on the first half of the journey. To the point, I just pull over here for a second, save the footage. I was hoping I can save like 15-minute blocks of footage, so I was hoping to get from the rail yard thing down to here, but then I wasn't sure as it was going a bit slow. I probably was fine, but again, the worst thing is to when you leave it and then you save a bit of footage that's probably gone on for 17 minutes, so then it loses like the first 2 minutes, and then now you've pretty much got the whole mission on video apart from like a little gap in the middle, which is a pain. I was pushing my luck there though. I was in auto. Look, I'm flooring it in auto, just nothing. It was having none of it. But I probably was pushing my luck a bit, trying to sail up the sort of left-hand side bank instead of driving up this mud. It's pretty awkward. I tried to send that rock between like the middle, but that's what she said. Yeah, it was having none of it. I think that was a bit too big. It's not liking it. Even at some points, I reluctantly went into low. See that tree? They're just awkward these days, them trees. And that's not even one of the bad ones, really. Yeah, kind of reluctantly went into low gear just because, as slow as it is, at least the game is kind of forced to give you consistent torque. It doesn't keep trying to jump up the gears in auto or make you stall in high gear and all that. I was very close at the minute to just jump the Lo4f and then use them as a mobile winch point, and that would have got me out of there. But there was also a certain element of like stubbornness. I wanted to see if this Derry could actually have a chance in hell. And then I think probably now I could have got the Lo4f, but I get a bit sentimental. I want to keep him on the trailer now, so I was having a look for a winch point. But again, the odd winch point here and there in the game, I don't mind. That sort of suits it pretty well. And there was a bit of pride at stake. Me versus the game. I will get it up there. I won't need a loaf. I always need a loaf. He would have saved the day. He definitely would have been a mobile winch point and pulled me up there. cargo is pretty noisy these days. I can hear it in the headset. It was not too bad. It was a nice little drive through there. We made it. We got out of there. Oh, just for a second I was like, oh, downhill, and then realised that, oh shit, I've not turned. We face planted that. To do a 3-pointer. Sometimes it's nice when there is like a tree or something solid that's on the inside of the corner and you can sort of fling a winch out and kind of Spider-Man swing the nose end of your truck around there. I think I did it actually at the... There's like the little yard thing on this where you've got to collect the twin steer in a Cat 745, and I turned off there, but I went like the long way around because there was the truck repair square thing going on there, so I got some free repairs, which probably was a good idea because give the truck a bit of a beat in there. That waterfall behind as well, there's a mission at some point. You've got to go and grab some, I think it was drilling spare parts, and there's one at the top of that waterfall and 2 at the bottom. And I did take a truck down there, just sort of a bit of pre-video scouting. Not today, it was the other day. And yeah, I jumped off that waterfall, and I mean, I don't know, surprise, surprise, that's not technically the way you're supposed to go, really, because when you land at the bottom of the waterfall, the water's pretty deep. It's definitely going to drown your vehicle. And yeah, I was kind of looking around. There's a few ways you can kind of get down there, but I don't know. I've sort of been scouting around, seeing what the you know, you sort of think the game will have a way that it assumes you're going to go down there and get them. So I'll do that mission at some point. But yeah, it's kind of just checking which way will be the ideal way to go. It's sort of hard to tell from the map, and like I say, straight down from the top of the waterfall is not the way, but then you've got to at least go to the top of the waterfall at some point to get the one part that's up there. So I have to figure out what the game's got in store for that one. And this thing, I mean, it's doing alright. It was a nice little drive up that hill, but slightly lacking the power and everything when we get to the top. Couple more winches. At this point I was running pretty low on fuel, which again, always got a goddamn horse of a vehicle with me, so he could help me in that situation. But then I always kind of, when I'm getting fairly close to the end of the mission and I've not got much fuel, I just kind of get impatient and wanna, well, not really impatient, but I want to see if I could make it without having to refuel. And that's why I cut over at that where the twin steer and that was, to this inner road, because I wanted to go up that hill and over that kind of like brow of the hill with the rocks there. I just kind of figured I'd, yeah, be more interesting to see how this this Derry does it over that, whereas the other route, kind of going on the really southern road, is fine, but yeah, it's a little bit more, there's not really anything poses too much of an issue. And then yeah, this is the water tower. Oh yeah, I think, yeah, funnily enough, I did that Spider-Man swing me truck round. It worked out pretty nicely actually. And I know with these water towers, I'm kind of not that bothered about doing them, but I want to see how the connected water towers work. And then I was looking in the contracts earlier, I'm going to have to do the water towers on the Burned Forest map fairly soon, because I've got to do them to unlock some various other contracts. But yeah, drop all that stuff off, get it built. It's like $4.5 grand. In the description it says something like, and you told us we wouldn't need it or something. I was like, what? How the hell are they listening to me? That is pretty much what I said. Yeah, just to move the truck out of the way, to show that tree was boss. I bounced off it the first time, so I needed to find out if I can still kill trees, and I can. We're all good. Yeah, that's about it for today though. I hope you enjoyed, I hope it helps. Thanks for watching, thanks to my Patreon members. Get yourself a loaf because he's a goddamn beast, and I'll be back soon.